북한에 10년간 잠입해 북한 정권을 속이고 당시 촬영한 영상을 다큐멘터리 영화로 만든 이들이 있습니다. 영화 잠입은 덴마크의 한 평범한 인물이 북한 정부의 민낯을 폭로하는 과정을 담은 영화인데요. 에포크타임스가 이 작품의 주연배우 울리 라르센을 만났습니다.
Well, it's a long story, but I will try to do it brief. I grew up in the southern part of Denmark, but in my childhood time, Germany was separated in two, in the east and the west, a communist and a capitalist country. But when I came to East Germany, none of this was not existing. And I was asked not to leave the ferry because I was told they were communists and they would probably kidnap me because I was from a capitalistic country as Denmark. That stayed in my mind for many years. And then suddenly the Berlin Wall went down and Europe were growing big again and in a free world, so to speak, most of it. And then somehow the director of the Mole, Mads Brügger, did a documentary named The Red Chapel, where he travels to North Korea. And that paid my attention because Korea is separated because of the Korean War. North Korea is not a communist country. It's a pure dictatorship of evil. And South Korea has freedom and human rights, which human rights are non-existing in North Korea. And that paid my attention, and then I found out there was a Danish Friendship Association supporting North Korea. And I went into that, and after that I tried to befriend them. And when I had the first meeting, I was talking with the director. I simply just typed him an email. And well, the rest is in history, so to speak, according to the Mole. Look at me, I'm charming. No. Simply because I let the time roll on and would push it to anybody. I did my studies. I tried to put myself into the North Korean history, the North Korean philosophy, the Juche philosophy, how the story of the leaders, and then this propaganda will always drop into you, for example, or Kim Jong-un, that suddenly a lot of doves, when he was born, came up from the ground flying away. And for people who grew up in a free country, you know it instantly. This is a lie. But for people growing up in North Korea, it's a part of their life from birth. So the regime brainwashed people from early ages on. And when you do that in generation, the other generation will adapt that belief. And the most scary thing about this way of manipulating people, I saw that back in 2012, a bit north of Pyongyang. We went out to a kindergarten. And every morning, these small children arrived to the kindergarten. They would be met by propaganda posters with American soldiers being stabbed in the head with bayonets by North Korean children. That is what they see in the morning. And that's so brutal. And then I walk in that room where the kids are, and they look at me, and I look like the enemy. And I would say the first view of those children from my eyes was like, we're gonna kill that man. but then they were told that I was actually a friend of North Korea, and I have seen how lovely North Korea is. And you have no food, you're being watched 24/7. You need the portrait pages of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il in your apartment. The authorities will check you out if you have those pictures in your house, and they have to be clean, and estimated 25 million people living under those bad conditions and with no human rights at all. They just have to do what they're told, otherwise the punishment could be. I think that Mr. Kang trusted me 100%. Every year on my birthday, at Christmas time, he was sending me greetings, even online or by regular mail. And I, of course, replied him the same way. But I knew from the beginning that he's a part of the regime. And I'm also aware of that he's been forced to do what he's doing because otherwise his life will be maybe more miserable. But the benefit for Mr. Kang is when he started interfering with me, he was allowed to leave North Korea. When he was in Denmark, officially he was traveling as a cultural exchange officer, but he was there to keep an eye on the other North Koreans who were participating with a music group. But for him to come to Denmark must have been a shock, and to other countries, because everything is free. And I remember asking him out for dinner, and he wouldn't eat meat because he fearing that his body and stomach was not able to digest so much meat. So he asked for tofu instead. When I was like, but you're here in Denmark, you can take whatever you like. But Mr. Kang He's a man of the regime. He helps investment people who want to do illegal investment with North Korea or drug trading, weapons trading. In that way, I don't blame him for doing it, but he also tells me that North Korea is treated bad because that was what he was grown up with. But when he'd been to Denmark and Belgium, and I think it's for UK as well, he knows how our society works in our free world, but he has his family back home and he's brainwashed from birth. But he was a big role player. He's not portrayed that much in the documentary, but he was taking all the lines around when we were in North Korea. And in Uganda, he was not present, but I had a contact with him back in Pyongyang.
What do they seem like?
Useful idiots for the regime. They are people that believe in something that shouldn't be here on the planet. Alejandro Cardenas, in my opinion, and also from some intelligence services that I spoke with, and profile of him is a narcissist and a psychopath. And if he don't get us like he want, he will kick the people out of the association. So actually, Alejandro Cardenas is a mini-me of Kim Jong-un. When he went there, he was acting like a prima donna, like a dictator, because they trusted him so much. So if there was somebody he didn't like, he could have them moved away. Difficult question. There have been many times I was thinking, is this going well or is it not? But I actually think one of the most frightening things was when I had been to North Korea the second time and had all the papers out about the documentation of how to do the drugs and how to build weapons and the price list. I went to Spain, to Tarragona, to visit Alejandro. And because he's not able to travel anymore, he still needs his North Korean, he's addicted to North Korea, so like a junkie, gonna have some cocaine or something. That's his North Korea. And he built his own cafe in his native town, Tarragona, but this time he took up this bug detector to find secret and hidden cameras. And I was wearing that, but I was and I have a bag with a camera on the opposite side of me, and then I was wearing microphones in my shirt and cameras. And I forgot everything about the camera over here. But in my mind, I need to distract him with something. And I have a rented car. And I simply just use the car key as an excuse for the signals, because it could turn on the cars from away. But if you look closely in the documentary, the moment he tried to swipe it in front of me, I take over my left arm here, because the signal he's trying to hear, and my camera is here. So he wouldn't have a direct signal from so I lean over and easily, when he just normally walks away, take the bag and say, might be this, and he scanned it and he said, oh yes, it was sending the signal. I was in that cafe with him and two of his best friends who was supporting him 100%. If I was exposed there, I would probably be quite ugly today. They would beat me halfway to death. So that was probably one of the most frightening moments in the whole 10 years. Also being in North Korea the whole time, of course, but that was a risk we were aware of, but didn't expect anything to happen in Europe in particular. Actually, I told them I was traveling around the world, but I didn't tell them what I was doing. What I told them was I was working for a film company, helping them with cameras. So it was quite honest, actually, or at least 1% honest. Yeah, but it's like also impossible. It will be impossible to do things like this if you put up a big lie, because it's easier to remember the truth than remember the lies. So mostly of the time I'm 95% myself, and the last 5% was the way I come around and got all the intels out of people. So I could have spent 100 hours less with him, but those 100 hours paid off, because then he was opened up completely. Again, you grew up, and people are growing up in a regime who wants to control everything, everybody. And fear is the best way of controlling people. In the beginning, the first time I went there, they were, watching me a bit, but then I started to interfere with Mr. Kang and Alejandro, and then suddenly I was accepted by the whole country. I had the badge of the Kims and a medal, and when you come up that high in North Korea as a foreign citizen, they respect you 100%, and that was my luck that I was receiving those medals and badges. So I still have the badges and the medal at home, and I just been offered a few months ago $1,500 for the little badge. So it's it's worth something, but I'm not gonna sell it. At least not for the next 10 years. I think it will be more worth. So, yeah. But it's strange that people and bizarre that people will collect things like this. So that's why they accepted me and believed in me, because I also told them what I knew they want to hear from me. So I was probably the lottery ticket for bringing in an investor to North Korea with a lot of money, which then in the end seemed out to be fake. Well, I've been there on my travels to North Korea to stay over. And I know now that I'm not able to go to China, not even in a transit airport, because North Korea put out a search for me, I guess. And they got deals with the North Koreans. I don't know if they got an extradite agreement, but in my case, I could fear it. In my time of life, I'm not sure that I will see freedom in North Korea. We can hope, let's hope, but I think it takes a war. And nobody wants a war at the moment. And especially not when China is so stupid, being befriending them even better. And Russia is. Yeah, we all know about Russia. I just can't believe a country like China, who is well developed and being better and better, that they still somehow manage to keep the communists by the power. But of course we know communist countries, they will do whatever it takes to keep it. Managed to remove all the dictators in Europe, so hopefully one day we can liberate the other countries, also country in the Middle East. Freedom is to wake up every morning, do what you have to do without fearing being ill or just saying something wrong at work that could cost you a life or a sentence in prison for years. No hunger at all. It has to be like that. And it's not in North Korea. That freedom means a lot to everyone, but some people don't know what freedom is, especially not the people in North Korea. I don't really fear anything. And I knew from the beginning when you start to roll on that I'm not going to befriend these people and I won't feel sad about them. Of course, I've been asked the questions, but what about the people that you frame in North Korea? Maybe because of you, they can be killed today. And I'm sorry to say, but it's not my responsibility what North Korea do to its citizens. No matter what, it's wrong what they do. I have heard intels afterwards that Mr. Kang, I follow some groups from a secret profile, and I saw pictures of him in Pyongyang after the documentary was released. Dramatically, going to bed Saturday evening, but going in bed at 11, wake up at 6, and you'll be on every world news station. That was a bit of a change. So be a familiar face around the world is a bit strange. And especially in the beginning, because we didn't know what attention the documentary would get, but I think we've been broadcasted for more than 100 countries. And 2 months ago, it was released on all the big streaming platforms. So, and I can feel that attention coming back now. So it's changed dramatically, being recognized. I've been walking around in Berlin in Germany with a cap on, and I got recognized at McDonald's. But if you go there as a Western citizen, you only have to stay 5 minutes in North Korea, even before you entering the airport terminal to get your visa. You will see it's a completely different country, and people they don't smile, they don't do anything. They just walk around like, I have to be careful using my words now because I don't want to talk bad about the regular North Korean, but they walk around depressed, I think. And then again, I don't even know if they know they are depressed, because that's just their life. But every time we have to be like, we have to reunite these countries under the banner and the leadership of, now it's Kim Jong-un, and before that Kim Jong-il, and before that Kim Il-sung. And that will never happen. And again, it will be expensive for South Korea to build up North Korean society, because the interest rate for everything is just like the 60s or 70s. I've been here 6 or 7 times in South Korea. And when I speak with a lot of people, they tell me that the younger generation today do not pay much attention to North Korea as the former generations. But I think for the history of Korea and for the human rights in North Korea, it's important to still keep the focus on North Korea, how to help them, and how to maybe one day be able to liberate those people living there. Because it is just an evil enterprise, North Korea, and nobody deserves to live in that. I can't even say country. It's just terrible for them. So I hope really that younger generation would pay attention to North Korea and try to help and keep doing what Mr. Hertz is doing here, put focus on human rights, to keep continuing putting on focus on North Korea.